current and future generations. The woodland environment is complicated and subtle. Village government is in a unique position to make available to residents the technical guidance to assist them in restoring their portion of the woodlands. RPC is willing and eager to work with the village board and its environmental and forestry committees to assist with woodland protection programs. Thank you. Absolutely, I have copies.
I had a couple of questions. I don't know if we want to talk about them now. We could talk about them.
No, let's talk about whatever you want to
Okay. I just want to, first of all, I just wanted to clarify. Was everything in the booklet you gave me, was all of this written by AES?
Yes.
Okay. In their recommendation sections, both in the executive summary and at the end, where they talk about the different things you can do, like for example, in the executive summary, I think there are 6 bullet points. Did they give any indication to you of, is one more important than another? Must you do all at one time, or anything like that, or did they just generally recommend?
Yeah, they did not prioritize the items, but I would note that they have said several times in the executive summary and in the other portion that the deer overbrowse and the canopy are the 2 main reasons for the problem degradation.
Anyone else have any comments?
Well, there are a couple of things. One that I find extremely disturbing, and we're not going to talk about culling deer because everyone here knows how I feel about that. The suggestion that we have controlled burns in the village. There are more problems with controlled burns, and yes, I know that they're beneficial to a woodland. However, I happen to have an asthmatic living behind me, and every time my next door neighbor burns leaves, she winds up either at the doctor or the hospital.
And I get at least a half a dozen calls every fall from people in the village who are complaining about people who are burning their leaves in their garden, in their yard.
Yeah.
And because of
So what I'm saying here is that as you will find in the village, people who feel that culling deer is a necessity, and people in the village who feel that culling deer is not a necessity, and that as long as the forest preserve and the adjacent communities are culling what is essentially the same herd, we don't have to do so. You will find the same issue when you start talking about burning, except with deer it's emotional, and with bird it could be deadly. And so that's a major consideration, where they can burn out in a field, they can burn in a forest preserve. We have large lots, but if you start talking about major burns to improve the woods, you're talking about negatively impacting the health of lots of people, and I would oppose that with everything that's in me.
Well, I have one response to that, and I know in the case of professional ecologist companies, they do take steps to protect against the kind of burn that would affect people with asthma and others.
Any smoke.
any smoke.
Any smoke. I mean, yes, they control it. I agree that they control it. But I've watched them burn in the forest preserves. And I've seen the amount of smoke generated. And I know that my neighbor is very careful when he burns leaves, that he doesn't burn wet leaves, that he doesn't burn grass clippings. But I know that the woman who lives behind him has gone to the hospital twice when he's burned leaves.
Sherry, isn't that
Just
slightly...
1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jerry, you finish.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that. I think it's Joan Becker, 2750 Edgewood Lane. I understand where you're coming from, and I think we have to protect residents' health above and beyond anything else. But I do find it slightly paradoxical that we have no restrictions on leaf burning, and in my very own neighborhood, there's somebody who is just burning endlessly, burning twigs, burning leaves. The smoke plumes rise higher every day, and there's no restriction on that, and there's not really very much of a benefit. Somebody could shred those leaves and bag them for compost and spread them in the rest of the neighborhood, and yet something that is so beneficial, we're going to attack. I think we should have some parity there as in
I'm
terms
not
of.
attacking it, Joan. I think it's a great idea. I wouldn't attack burns. I know the quality of burns.
And I'm with you on protecting residents.
In a lot of ways. Yes, you have to have professionals come in and do it, and yes, it's controlled, but you're not talking about large open spaces that can be burned. You're talking about the areas between people's homes.
Yes,
It's an altogether different animal than the restoration burns they do in meadows or forests.
But wouldn't you agree that
Not burning leaves is permissible, but I don't think, we've discussed having a burn.
There's nothing precluding burn.
Did we not
People have done
discuss
it.
this before?
People have done it in the village.
Having burns of properties, just burning off all of the
There's nothing prohibiting it by ordinance.
Right. We have one being under consideration right now, Chuck's looking at on Blackwood.
Sherry, we would be happy to network, to outreach, to do anything that would be beneficial to the village, to talk to professionals. That's exactly what we want to do, is help productive techniques be put into place. I don't think we should focus on saying we're not going to allow any smoke, because we're simply not going to be able to do that. But let's
Joan,
find
you
a
never
good
said we
way.
would.
Joan, I
You
never
that's
said I
the
would.
problem. That's all
I
it
never
is.
said I would. I just said that I have a major concern, and
And I share your
I have a right to that
concern.
concern.
Absolutely, I'm with you, Sherry.
Okay, that's all I said.
Lisa?
Lisa Padua, Timberlake Flame. Quick question. Who mandates the mosquito spraying in Riverwoods? Okay, and did we do a medical assessment of the insecticide that's used? Because it's a carcinogen, you see. So supporting what they're saying is we really do have to make sure that if we're going to be concerned about the asthmatic or COPD or emphysemic patient in Riverwoods, we also have to be concerned about the carcinogenic effects of mosquitoes and the insecticides. And I'm very disturbed that we spray for mosquitoes in Riverwoods. I'm happy that we don't have them.
Oh, however, let me tell you, when they don't come for a week, you should see what happens to the phone.
No.
I mean, they scream when they don't
No. I understand that. I'm very familiar with that. But I think we have to.
Let me just point out, I don't want to leave the wrong impression about the village's role in this. We do not control mosquito abatement. When they are coming out to spray, we do notify people. I think there's a list of people, we make phone calls to people.
No, I understand that.
We use the village-wide calling system, so it's regulated by state law. We don't have the ability.
No, I understand that. But what I am saying is two wrongs don't make a right. Just because Riverwoods doesn't have full control over the carcinogens that are sprayed on all of the foliage and the woodlands to protect the mosquitoes doesn't mean we shouldn't be equally as conscientious as trying to develop a multidisciplinary approach to the deer problem, not the fence problem, but to the deer problem. So I just want to make everyone aware that people in this village are being
We're talking about a
exposed.
bird right now.
Yeah, I
We're
understand
talking
that,
about
but I just wanted to make it clear that people in this village are being exposed to entities that could be potentially dangerous to their health. So it's not just about burning and smoke and the dangers that obviously incurs.
Hi, I'm very sorry, Orange Grace. One suggestion I would have for something like if people are considering a burn, if you do it in a very organized fashion, it could be something where certain properties are targeted to be burned, and those residents surrounding that are notified that this is the day, so that people who do have that issue could make a decision to.
Well, you would have to.
But, and my other concern, to reiterate what she had said, in terms of talking about, this is kind of inclusive of the fences and everything, one of the things that came up at one of the Plan Commission was, we're here to protect the residents of Riverwoods, and so certainly talking about a burn, one of my concerns, and I know this is off the subject, but still kind of within the context, is when we talk about smoke that's very visible, and the mosquitoes, I understand that is a carcinogen. My concern is